March for Black Lives, particularly from the eyes of one of the few Black teenagers in this town, is extremely overwhelming and brings me so much hope for the future. While we are here today to commemorate the death of George Floyd, he is far from the only one we must remember. Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Jerome Reed, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, Tony McCade, Ahmaud Arbery, David McAtee, Pamela Turner, Breonna Taylor, and countless other Black Americans who have been murdered must never be forgotten. They should all be alive today. No one's life should be taken for granted because of the color of their skin. Their murders, which went unpunished, are representations that the system, rife with entrenched racism, does not truly protect Black people. We as a community, as a state, and as a nation must mobilize and unite to combat the dehumanization of Black Americans. This is only the beginning. The protests, petitions, and monetary support are the initial steps to change. We have seen them effective already as all 4 of George Floyd's murderers have been arrested and charged, and bills in different states including New Jersey, have been introduced to ensure the protection of all people. But I know it will take much more than protests and asking elected officials to institute change, especially as the protests dwindle and the momentum created by social media subsides. That is why it is so critical that we use our voices, speak out, educate ourselves and others, and vote for officials who will pass reforms to hold everyone with the position of authority accountable for their actions. For me, the events over the past 2 weeks have been truly a learning experience. In the process of writing this address, I realized that change will require shared sacrifice by all. Protesting is the easy part, recognizing that many Black communities are unfairly plagued with education, healthcare, and job opportunities that are far inferior from what we take for granted here in Berkeley Heights can be uncomfortable. But the reality is that our lives are all intertwined, and when one suffers, we all pay the price. The question is, when do we pay and how much? When we ask our representatives to fund better education in Black communities, that means people with greater means have to pay for it. The fact is, when the school system is shortchanged in Black communities, Black people are disadvantaged in college admissions and may go unemployed. Crime goes up and now everyone has to pay higher in taxes for policing, jails, and welfare. Funding education is less expensive than supporting incarceration. In New Jersey, the state spends over 3 times more annually to imprison someone than to educate them. And now the coronavirus pandemic disproportionately affects Black people. With high infection totals in New Jersey, we all pay the price of having the state shut down. My eyes have been opened in ways that book learning and my insulation living in Berkeley Heights could never have exposed me to. We all have a shared humanity and need to be each other's keepers. Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds while he cried out that he couldn't breathe. There are George Floyds out there who have had knees on their necks for years, being suffocated by the system that has failed them on countless levels. Black lives matter today, tomorrow, and every day after that. We have to be an active part of the change we want to see. We have the power to change the system, change the future for our later years, our children, and for generations to come. We are on the onset of a long road ahead to reform not only the policies that govern our people, but to reform the minds of those who are unwilling to accept the truths that have been laid out before them. The fight is far from over. With that said, thank you all for coming out today and continue to press onwards for change.